In modern video games, there is nothing more successful than box open mechanism, which is one of the most profitable and universal mechanisms in the world, and the game manufacturers love it. This mechanism is easy to understand. Open the box to get the item. It doesn't worry about models, pictures or complex algorithms. Box open mechanism has become the greatest invention in the history of the game.
Okay, so I'm gonna be entirely honest, I didn't really think I'd be talking about Middle-earth Shadow of War anytime soon or ever again, because that game kind of fell off the face of the earth and no one was talking about it. But we've got some pretty big news that I want to cover because it covers microtransactions and Shadow of War, which is a game that I was covering very heavily up until release and I was very critical of, and that does relate to this recent announcement. So to give you a reminder first of the loot boxes in Shadow of War and the microtransactions, basically you could buy some boxes that would give you different orcs with different traits and abilities that were generally more powerful than most of the ones that you'd find out in the world, and the game itself seemed to be based around you opening up these boxes either with in-game currency or with premium gold. And if you didn't do that and you wanted to get an orc up to a similar level, it became a very big grind, especially towards the end game. It pretty much undermined the entire ideas behind the Nemesis system, which is more or less you go out into the world, you find some orcs that originally want to kill you, then you brand them or win them over to your side, and then you get their powerful abilities for your own army, and it's a cool kind of emergent storytelling technique. It's a system that was really praised in Shadow of Mordor, and over into Shadow of War, they did improve on it a lot, but unfortunately, with the addition of those microtransactions, it really hampered your experience.
The first time you open a box is a lot like the first time you have sex. You have absolutely no idea what you're doing, but it is exciting, and one way or another, it's over way too fast.
So there's a lot of backlash from critics and fans on forums and videos, all that stuff, and it was very heavily defended by WB and Monolith. They basically said that even though there were loot boxes, they were only there for the people who really wanted to get them, who don't have enough time to play games, and it doesn't affect your single player experience. And then you got to the end game where you were doing a crap ton of fortress assault missions that were all basically the same and were very difficult to do because you had to grind up your levels or buy the loot boxes to get the orcs right away. The loot boxes in Shadow of War basically broke the game if you used them because it made the game way easier than it should have been, but I also feel like there was a deliberate effort to extend out that end game to make it more viable to purchase some boxes so that you could keep playing and get to the real ending. So basically what I'm saying is they were stupid, they shouldn't have existed in the first place, and apparently Monolith agrees with that now. Huh. Who would have thought? So yesterday, Monolith posted an announcement that says they are removing the loot boxes and microtransaction systems from Shadow of War, and they're saying that's because they felt like it really harmed your experience with the single player and the core of the game. Everything that we said 2 months before your game came out. To be incredibly specific, they said, the core promise of the Nemesis system is the ability to build relationships with your personal allies and enemies in a dynamic open world. While purchasing orcs in the market is more immediate and provides additional player options, we have come to realize that providing this choice risked undermining the heart of our game. It allows you to miss out on the awesome player stories you would have otherwise created, and it compromises those same stories even if you don't buy anything. Simply being aware that they are available for purchase reduces the immersion in the world and takes away from the challenge of building your personal army and your fortresses. In order to fully restore the core promise of the Nemesis system, we'll be permanently removing gold, war chests, and the market from Shadow of War. There will be a specific amount of time given for players to utilize their unused gold. If players have unused gold by the end of the time allotted to spend it, any remaining gold will be converted into in-game items. Oh baby. Oh, this feels orgasmic. In addition, they're also going to be revisiting and revamping the Shadow Wars portion of the game, which is that end-game content that I talked about earlier. Specifically, they said they'll be streamlining it and making it a bit more narratively focused, so it feels like less of a grind, hopefully. And they will also be implementing some Nemesis system updates, new player skins, skill tree additions, gear system upgrades, and progression updates. And the kicker is, this is all going to be free, so that's good. I would hope they wouldn't charge to remove crappy things from their game. That'd be Konami levels of terrible. Alright, so that's a positive update, right? They're taking out a highly controversial couple of mechanics out of their game, and honestly, that makes me very happy because they were stupid and I hate them. but it does make me concerned that there's going to be more developers that implement microtransactions just to remove them. However, in that same vein, if they are finally getting the message and taking out mechanics that really shouldn't be there in the first place, I can't really be angry about it. I really do feel like this is because there's been a lot of talk lately in politics and in the video game industry about things like microtransactions, loot boxes, obviously the whole gambling controversy stuff that's been going on for the last few months here. And there's going to be a lot more publishers and developers announcing either lessened microtransactions or removing them from their games to try to save face. I don't necessarily believe it's all to increase the player experience. It's most likely because maybe their shareholders are getting a bit antsy about the things that they're including in their game in regards to microtransactions, loot boxes, that type of stuff. Because money makes the world go round, not video game experiences at the end of the day. And as much as I'd like to think that people are wise about loot boxes and microtransactions at this point, the fact of the matter is the general gaming audience is still going to pick up a game and play it regardless, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can play whatever you want, but a lot of people still aren't even going to be aware of it because they don't follow the industry. And that being said, I do want to talk about the differences between a publisher and a developer and explain why I think this happened to Shadow of War specifically. Now, I don't know any of this for sure. This is all speculative. This is just from my own personal feelings with my interactions with Monolith and with the developers there over on, say, like the Shadow of War Discord and on Reddit and in like social media interactions and stuff. In my experience, I've always found that Monolith has been very open with their community, and they have been very much on the consumer side, more so than a lot of other developers. Now, WB, on the other hand, have a pretty big history of being giant shittards, and I truly do believe that WB is responsible for the majority of these microtransaction systems and these poorly implemented game mechanics. I very much got the impression from Monolith that they didn't want the microtransactions in there in the first place. Again, there's barely any basis for that. This is going off my own personal feelings and interactions with the developer, and it always felt to me like the systems themselves were put into the game way late at like the last maybe couple months of development, which would explain a lot of the reasons why they didn't gel and mesh with the rest of the game. They felt more like glorified cheat codes, and they kind of broke a lot of the experiences and mechanics, which is what they reference in their paragraph in this announcement update. And my thoughts here on why this happened specifically to Shadow of War is because it's very likely to me that Monolith was probably pressuring WB to remove these mechanics as well, and that might have been what was enough to get them out of the game. Because when you couple a developer saying, we don't want this mechanic in the game that we're making, along with a bunch of political and industry controversy, then stuff's gonna get done a lot quicker. Again, that's my personal thought. I don't know if that's the case. That's just kind of the feeling I get from all this. It's kind of a shame though, because I've already put like 40 to 50 hours in Shadow of War, and I don't really want to go back and play it again. I've beaten the main story, I got bored of Shadow Wars and gave up on that, then watched the ending on YouTube, so is it too little too late? Kinda for me. I might pop in and see what it's like again, but that game is like a 60 gig download too, so it's kind of a daunting task for me to go back into a game and play the real version of it now after I've already put in like 40 plus hours into it. I feel like a lot of other people are going to have very similar sentiments too, so it's going to be interesting to see if this is like a resurgence for Shadow of War, but I'm not holding out a whole lot of hope. That being said, free updates and removing these mechanics is still a very good thing for the industry because this is a AAA experience and a very high-profile game, so seeing it happen is a positive step forward. The problem is this industry has a big tendency to take one step forward and then 2 steps back. I think 2018 is going to be a very interesting year because you're going to see a bit of a tug of war between developers, publishers, politicians, and news articles and outlets and all that crap. They're all going to be saying different stuff, and it's going to really affect the viability of microtransactions in general. That's all I got for you. I'm leaving now. I have stuff to do. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. I gave up my breakfast to tell you this. Be freaking grateful.
Free boxes. Help yourself. Tell your friend. Boxes for you. Happy times. Come on. No charge. Everything goes for free. Yes, come on up. You're having fun now, right? Take it. Go ahead. everything goes for free.
I just want you to take